my heart. Peace in my heart, let the time for parting be sweet. Let it not be a death, but completeness. Let love melt into memory and pain into songs. Let the flight through the sky end in the folding of the wings over the nest. Let the last touch of your hands be gentle like the flowers of the night. Stand still, O beautiful end, for a moment, and say your last words in silence. I bow to you and hold up my lamp to light you on your way.
So let me start with you all and mostly the online people. We have a camera back there, that's who I'm looking at. Sometimes I do not believe in ghosts or superstition, and sometimes at memorials or funerals, the dead get the last laugh. Our video switcher, the one that lets us project things and not project things, and online people, the reason everything is black right now, it decided to go out about 10 minutes ago. I did a memorial about a year ago for a bird lover, and a bird would not stop talking the entire time. He didn't care about video switchers, did he? Okay. We're gathered today to celebrate the life and mourn the death of Terry Lynn Teekell. Terry was a son, a father, a husband, an ex-husband, a sailor, and an engineer. Terry was quiet. In fact, he was so quiet, I do not recall having said more than maybe 10 sentences to him. And he's been in this church for as long as I have, which is now 13 years for me, 20 for you all, I think. My name is Nathan Ryan. I'm one of the ministers. Reverend Chris Long is our other minister. We are ministers here at the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge, and that is and was Terry's church. Terry was raised Baptist. He became Episcopalian and eventually landed in Unitarian Universalism. He may have gone alphabetically, but I'm not certain. Because he never said very much to me, I cannot tell you what he believed. I do not know if he believed in God or not. I do not know if he believed in an afterlife, but I believe that he was attracted to this church because of its openness. Terry grew up in a time, in a body, in a region that should have made him more judgmental and prejudicial than he is. It should have made him want to exclude others, to separate himself from those our culture tells are not worthy. But to the best that any of us can figure, he never fell into that. He always seemed dedicated to a more open and welcoming world. There are a few things that I would like for you to know about this service. I have first for a thing, but zeroth, pre-first, is sometimes our technology does not cooperate. I actually see our sound booth person literally talking on the phone with our guru on how to fix that. So online people, we got you. We're going to get through this. But first, this service will be incomplete. Terry's story is more complicated and complex than anything that can be captured in 1 hour. Our goal is not to fully retell him from up here. Our goal is to have an hour where he is being retold. For each of you gathered in this congregation, you will experience Terry as you knew him. If he was your coworker or your sailing buddy or your spouse or your father or just an acquaintance, each of you had a different relationship with him. If you all would like to look behind you, that may be Terry trying to talk to her. It is likely that there are parts of this service that will remind you of him. That is our goal. Our goal, that is how he will be retold, through you. So the people who will be standing from the pulpit can see his memorial in your eyes, as your eyes light up or kind of squint a little or your muscles tensen or loosen, just like they would if he was right in front of you. Second, while this is a sad service, there is no reason for it all to be sad. From what I have heard, and I have not experienced this, Terry had one of the sharpest and driest senses of humor known. Family says yes. Does anyone else? A few? Okay. His family told me that you did not know a joke was coming until it sort of pierced right out of his mouth. We are allowed to laugh today. Are you seeing that too? Okay. We are allowed to laugh today. We are allowed to have joy today. We are allowed to celebrate today. We are allowed to celebrate the fact that he was alive, that he was able to share his love enough that you are feeling grief right now. Third, the fullness of Terry should be named. He should be allowed to be both good and bad. He should have strength and flaws. He should not be defined by any of these in isolation. All of them work in a symbiotic relationship to bring out the fullness of who he was. For example, I am the oldest of 4. I understand being in a large family, and I say this with as little judgment as I can possibly have. But Terry was an only child, and that informed who he was throughout his life. It is not good, it is not bad, but it is just part. That's the behind the scenes, too. It was just part of who he was. It is also true that he suffered from Parkinson's and that the end of his Parkinson's was dementia. Terry should not be defined by those struggles. They should not be all of who he is. And also, it is still a part of his story. Part of the grief that is talked about today is the fact that Terry went through the dying process for a long and painful time. And it is okay if you feel some relief because parts of him have been gone for a while. He is not Terry with dementia. He is Terry in his fullness, but that also means he suffered from it. Does that make sense? Terry was also a sailor. To say that another way, part of what brought him peace was to be in places where he was not supposed to be. He trusted the craftsmanship of others to build vessels for him to be on, for him to enjoy life on, so that he could be on places over the water that without those connections, none of us would have access to. 4, just as I do not know what Terry believed, I cannot promise you where he is. I would love to tell you that he is in a better place. I would love to tell you that he is reunited with his parents and that all of us will be reunited with him at some point. Whether that is true or not is not mine to say. What I do know is I do know that there is more light in the world than we can see in our visual spectrum. I know that there are more sounds in the world than our limited ears can hear. And I am just as certain that life is more complicated and it spans broader than what we can see from birth to death. Our goal for today is to tell stories about Terry. It is to let him live through us in these stories. It is time for all of you and all of us to grieve. It is time for us to be grateful for all who have taken care of him. Because one of the gifts of Terry's marriage, one of the things I always worry about when I am doing premarital counseling, is will the couple stay together when things get hard for one of them? And Ermin stuck with Terry throughout. That is a testament to her decision and also to both of your love. My hope for today is that this will be the next chapter in your grief and your healing. That we will feel that he is at peace, that we will feel that he is able to live on through us. And so, we're really going to test this out now because now it's we're going to skip singing because that's not in the order of service. We're going to go to the chalice-lighting words, which are printed in your order of service. Ermin, would you come up and light the chalice? And printed in your order of service, if you would join me in saying, with hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is the symbol of the power of love. We're back online. We're not back online, but we can see the screen. So I'll invite you to rise and body your spirit and hope that we get the lyrics to this first hymn. While you were getting ready, Ermin told me you all are not a bunch of singers. I don't believe it. So let's sing. Life goes on in endless
You may be seated. How can I keep from singing? Again, good morning, everyone. As we continue to gather to honor the life and living of Mr. Terry Teekell and the fact that he has passed, I found a quote I would like to share with you as we continue to come to grips with the fact that Terry's physical body has passed on. The quote is by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She wrote, "It's not the end of the physical body that should worry us. Rather, our concern must be to live while we're alive, to release our inner selves from the spiritual death that comes with living behind a facade designed to conform to external definitions of who and what we are." to release our inner selves from the spiritual death that comes from living behind a facade designed to conform to external definitions of who and what we are. Briefly, as Unitarian Universalists or those who seek religious community with us, a large percentage of those who live and practice our faith tradition firmly believe that we do not know what happens after we die. And indeed, we are challenged to live our values of justice, compassion, mercy, and love with every waking moment of our lives. This is not to suggest that there aren't those amongst us who also hold fast to the fact there may be something after this life, which may allow for a reunion with our loved ones once we too have passed. For we truly, truly can never know what happens after we have physically left this side of the veil of life. It's also very important to note that stages of mourning and grief are by no means linear, and it's even more important to honor grief, when and how it comes. As you may well know, mourning is, in some faith traditions, allows for a specific period of time to mourn. For example, one such tradition is sitting for a week or more with family or friends after the death of a loved one. In yet other cases, a family member, friend, or a spouse of the loved one declares they will wear black until they feel they are no longer in mourning. Grief, on the other hand, is different. There is no timeline to grief. And sometimes, without intention, our friends and our loved ones feel you have been grieving long enough, so it's time to move on. In most cases, this is not helpful and may cause unintended tensions impacting the healing process after such life-transforming loss. So grieve as you need to grieve, and when you need to grieve, for as long as you need to grieve. Through this reflection, honoring the life of Terry Teekell, supporting Ms. Ehrman, their family, and each other, I offer these words at this time. At this time, although it is true his physical body is no longer with us, Terry lived a life of love, sailing, parrot head, playing harmonica, and being the center of a party, no matter the context, bringing people together everywhere he went. Just over a week ago, I had the honor of visiting Ms. Ehrman in their home, where we watched the Olympics on one of the clearest televisions I have ever seen in my whole life. We toured their home of the last many years, and we took in the memories of Terry's life through the treasures placed throughout their home. Of particular note for me was the collection of harmonicas that were in a not-so-small bag in a section of their home that was clearly dedicated to his love of playing this instrument, with dozens to choose from. Also of particular note was to behold a sailing scene that had been hand-carved into parts of a log of a tree. There's Terry again. That were carved into a log of a tree that was so detailed, one could almost make out the face of the figure featured in the piece that could have very well have been an image of Terry himself. Ms. Ehrman, thank you so very much for honoring me and us with such treasures and memories that will long live in our hearts, in your heart, and in our collective hearts for all that knew and loved Terry. A reading. We belong to the oneness. We belong to the eternal here and now. We did not begin when we were born. Our origin goes back to the beginningless, beginning of all things. Our biography is the story of earth and sun and humankind. Do we end when we die? Something eternal is revealed in everything. Our brains and bodies are mosaics of the same unknown that underlies the light, the star, the sea. We do not know what it is, but we live in it, and we call it life. We belong to the oneness from which we have emerged.
Once again, and Jason, I don't know what you're going to say, so this is a preface not based on you. Our goal is for you to experience Terry. It is impossible to capture him in a eulogy. I have never seen it done. It is very possible, if it is told honestly, for you to see the Terry you knew in any story about him. So, Jason, would you come up and share a story about Terry?
Still good morning. Good morning, everyone. What a wonderful way to be able to encapsulate a wonderful man. The crowd here, the people here, if there's one thing I want to leave by telling this, is we all hope when it's our time that we can leave a legacy. Did we leave the world a better place than when we came into it? And 100% Terry Teekell did that. I have had, first of all, let me start back over. I'm Jason McCann. I'm Katie McCann's husband. I'm Ermin Teekell's son-in-law, and Terry was my stepfather-in-law. But I threw this step out a long time ago. We had a special bond, and what I mean by that is this. Katie and I were engaged when Ermin and Terry started dating. So we kind of were in the same boat at the same time, maybe of different generations, but we kind of had the same, feelings of where we were going. And from the moment I met Terry, he was the most kind, loving, wonderful person. And let me tell you, if there's anything you leave out here today about Terry, selfless. And not many people that you encounter in life are selfless people. Like the minister said, he was quiet, but he listened. He cared more about what you thought than he thought. And it was evident every time you talked to him. Hey, Jason, how was your day? How are you doing? How's everything going? He didn't care to tell you about himself. He wanted to know how you were. And there's not many people like that. We live in a society where it's all about me, right? All about me. Let me tell you about me. No. Terry was like, you tell me about yourself. He lived his life and treated people the way he wanted to be treated. From the very beginning, he was family. He made it known that he was a father, a husband, and a grandfather to my children. Not only his own children and grandchildren, but his step-grandchildren. But there was no step. He loved everyone the same. And that is something that I've taken to heart from the moment I met him. He was the life of the party. He might not have said much, but when he did, man, it brought everybody down, didn't it? He just had a way with words. And always positive, always happy. I mean, always. Even in the last few years, when the man was suffering, he always had a smile on his face. And you know he probably didn't want to, but it meant more to him that you thought he was happy and he made your life better than his own. And it's just something about that is a legacy. He left this world a better place, and it's a little darker because he's not in it. Loved to have a good time. My goodness, I can't tell you how many times. Loved LSU sports, loved sailing, loved Parrot Head, loved everything. Everything he got himself immersed in, he loved. I can't tell you how many times Urban would say, "Hey, Jason, Terry wants to know what channel's the LSU game on? What time is the women's basketball game, the baseball game?" He loved it all. Just, I could go on and on. His legacy of just being the person we all hope to be is something that I cherish, because I hope when it's my time, I'm half the man he was. Loving husband, loving father, loving grandfather, and a loving friend. When he was in your presence, he really wanted to be in your presence and touch you in a way that you felt better about yourself. What a wonderful quality. Loved music. My goodness, he would bring harmonicas to events, and he would hear something one time and he would play it, and you thought he had played that song. I'm like, one time I told him, I said, "Man, how long you been practicing that?" "Well, Jason, about a week." I'm like, wow, he had a knack of being able to really just light up a room. And I'm going to miss him. The last few years have been really, really tough for him, for the family, and for his friends. But I will tell you, and I cherish this as much as anything else. I would go over and help with maintenance items, changing air filters, doing things around the house because he couldn't do them. And it was something I wanted to do. And he would come up to me and say, "Hey, Jason, I can't help you, but can I hold the ladder? Can I get you a glass of water? Can I do something?" That's who he was. In his last few years where he was really suffering, he still wanted to help you. It wasn't about him. And that's something that I will always remember. And in conclusion, I just want to say this. To my mother-in-law, who I love dearly, if Terry was standing right here, he would tell you thank you. He would. He would tell you thank you for sticking by his side and taking care of him. For those of you who are married, it's in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. And you say those things, they're words, but do you live by them? In the last 7 or 8 years, it goes back to my original word of legacy and selfless. Well, behind every good man is a good woman. And the selflessness that you have displayed over the last 7 or 8 years of taking care of him 24/7, a lot of times people not knowing what you did. He loves you and he thanks you. And I love you too.
Let's go out of order a little, just because I can you can lower this a lot, Brian. Just because I can kind of feel the energy in the room. Let's do a prayer and then we'll sing a song that might be hard for some of you. Would you join me in a moment of prayer and reflection? The God that we know when we see love and kindness and hope and family and a world worth living in. Help all of us who are gathered honor and hold the memory of Terry Lynn Teekell. Help us to remember that he is now a part of so many that have helped to make us who we are. Help us to know that all of his struggles and our struggles are not in vain. Help us to know that we can live a life as loving as he lived. Help us to know that each day the healing happens a little more. And help us to know that we are held by a love greater than we can ever understand. And help us to know that Terry is cared for and loved, and that his soul is at peace. Amen. Let's stay seated for this next hymn. So we used to have a recessed fountain out here. If you've ever built a fountain, don't build one that's recessed because it clogs a lot. Most of the time that I knew Ermin and Terry was because they were cleaning that fountain. I don't know if that was Terry's idea or yours. So I want to do something really quickly. Every time I see the absence of that fountain, the only two people I ever saw cleaning it were them. So every time I see the absence of that fountain, I'm going to remember him. So I don't normally do this, but I would like everyone to take a few seconds, just take a breath. What is a thing when you see it, it's going to remind you of Terry? Would you say it out loud right now? Loud enough so that Ermin and family can hear. What? No, not all the same thing together. Like whatever it is, I mean, sailing, great, but just, I'm going to step back, just say the things right now. In the blowing of the wind and the cold of winter, please say with me, we will remember him. We will remember him. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring. We will remember him. In the blueness of high and the heat of summer, the blueness of sky and the heat of summer. We will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn. We will remember him. When we are at sail. We will remember him. When we listen to Jimmy Buffett. When we listen deeply, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we have joys we yearn to share, so long as we live, he too shall live. Terry Teekell lived on this earth. He sailed, he played, he made music, he shared joy and love. And his body has given all that it can. Terry was cremated, and at some point in the future, when the weather is not horrible, his family will scatter part of his ashes over False River, where he spent many of his days. After this service, there will be a brief reception here in the church. Here's the problem. You are welcome to stay here as long as you want and talk as long as you want. I've noticed from the line to talk to Ermin that you're going to want to do that for a long time, which is great. And I believe that everyone is invited to Drusilla Seafood to have a food, like there's food here, but like a lunch reception where you can really tell the stories of Terry. So I'm telling you two very conflicting but real things. Stay here after, talk to each other, tell stories, enjoy food, enjoy being with each other. And then go to Drusilla Seafood for a more substantial meal to tell stories and talk about him. Does that make sense? So stay here and leave. And this is not a reception for close family and friends. This is for everyone, right? You want people to be together and to hear stories and be. Terry wanted that too. So this is beyond the polite invitation where really you're not supposed to go because you weren't there. Like, this is the open invitation to all of you. While today his service ends, his legacy and his memory and the love that he shared into this world, it just begins to enter this next chapter. May you know peace, may you know love. Amen. I invite you to rise. Let's sing one final hymn.
Beautiful blue boat home.
as you go through the rest of today and tell stories about Terry and think about the other people in your life that you love, please let today make you a little kinder, a little more just, a little more loving, and a better listener. May you know peace. May you know you are loved. Amen.